Yo, B, let's go.
You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
Welcome back to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. I'm Julian here with my co-host B, and today we're going to talk about more money and how it could lead to more problems. I'm sure that's something we've all heard before, more money, more problems. It's a notable song by the Notorious B.I.G. as well. But just a phrase, I'm sure we grew up with, been surrounded by, or at least heard once. But before we dive into that, B, I think we finally hit a year worth of recording. So congratulations, dude. That's kind of exciting. Super
Yeah,
happy to
thanks.
have been at this
No,
for a
thanks. Same
year
to
with
you.
you.
It's been fun, dude. It's been good.
It has been fun. It has been fun. But yeah, let's talk about these problems or lack thereof as a result of money. Or maybe not, who knows. So yeah, more
Dude, I
money, more
was
problems. I have
like when
some
I
go ahead.
so I was like look when I think you had a similar experience, but when I was looking up like more money, more problems in the first place, right? Looking trying to talk think about what to talk about in this show.
Mhm.
And then I watched the music video for More Money, More Problems with Biggie. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to dissect the lyrics to see like
Mm,
what kind of problems that they're having with more money.
I
And I
like
think this
that.
kind of speaks for the premise of what we're trying to rebel against. And if you go look at the lyrics right now, they don't necessarily talk about any more problems that they had additional due to the fact that they have more money. Right?
That's
Like
funny.
the song title is literally called More Money, More Problems, yet
Yeah,
in the song they don't talk about more problems. They just talk about money.
that's hilarious.
Which I mean, that's my personal belief is too after looking this stuff up. Like I don't necessarily think more money creates more problems at all.
I so I'll caveat that with I mean, yeah, largely I agree. I don't think more money creates more problems. I maybe different problems. And I also have a whole nother phrase that I want to submit to the conversation, but I'll wait a little bit for that. But yeah, I agree. I think it's which I didn't listen to the song recently. I came across it. I mean, I've heard it like over time, but that's funny. And I'm kind of wishing I did kind of do that and just listen intently for this purpose. But I think that's hilarious. Um, and if I feel like if they were talking about problems, they were probably problems that are far better than our problems or the problems of an everyday person. Is probably like, oh, especially in the context of like our rap videos, probably like what car do I want to buy or something. I don't know. Which is that even a problem? I don't know. Very first world problem, if anything. But I'm trying to think of I mean, it's just a quote, so I can't. I'm trying to think like the first time I've heard it, or maybe even the last time I've heard that quote. Like, what was my environment? Where was I? Was it like in a school setting? Was it just amongst friends? Which I don't think I can really say, like when or where I heard it or heard it the most. I just know it's something I've heard over time. Obviously, in music, that's one that we already touched on. But I'm trying to think. Have you heard like? Is there anywhere specifically you're like, oh, I definitely remember hearing this, whether in some type of media or was there somebody in your
Yeah.
life that always said it or nothing I can think of really?
No, nothing nothing in particular, but here's at least like my belief system that I kind of grew up with, and that it may be heavily associated with growing up majority of my time in the Japanese culture, and I guess I don't know, maybe it's like a East Asian thing. Like money is much more taboo than it is in the West. Like money is
Yeah.
still taboo, but then like, I feel like people are becoming more and more open to the conversation about money, just money in
Yeah.
general.
Okay.
Whereas in Japan, at least, it's not like that. So they kind of stress on the minimalistic lifestyle. Just like having like getting every I don't know. I don't know how to exactly describe it, but like being mediocre, like having like a mediocre average life, like finding beauty in that, which I don't
Mhm.
necessarily find that wrong. And then I think there's a lot of beauty in that as well. So I kind of grew up with that mindset combined with the social narrative, um, just I guess in American culture as well. And then it's not just the saying more money, more problems. There's a lot of different things like that. Uh, like for example, we have like money can't buy happiness, which if you just said that phrase, I don't agree with. I don't agree with it. There's a lot of happiness that can be bought with money. Money isn't solely happiness, but happiness could be bought with money.
Which you have a
And
whole episode on. Yeah.
right, which we definitely have a whole we talked about for over an hour about this, right?
Yeah.
And they say the love of money is the root of all evil. They say, oh, like all this money, you can't take it with you. Best
Yeah.
things in life are free. I do think there are truth in those statements, but then I think there is like I guess false information. Trying to think
Yeah.
of like the opposite word of a truth is false, right?
Yeah.
Like just false narrative associated with those sayings. So when I was 22, I it just I think I'm still awed by how I changed my belief system in
Mhm.
such a quick time. But June 2020, 2018, when I was 22, I at this point I graduated from school and I was it I was in my like first officer training in San Diego
Mhm.
for the United States Navy, right? I joined
Yeah.
commissioned as an officer, and then before you go to your ship, like you do this like couple months course, pretty easy, but just like to season you up before you
Yeah.
go up to your first ship. So I still remember thinking about this. And this is the first time, like imagine this is the first time I'm making more money than minimum wage. This
Yep.
like I only worked minimum wage job prior to this. So I'm making good money as a 22-year-old. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? Like, I want to do this career for about 30 years. Maybe at the end of my career, I'll peak out, not accounting for inflation, but I'll peak at like upper hundred, six-figure salary, maybe like 170, 180. I'll have a wife, I'll have a couple kids, and I'll be happy, and that'll be my life. In October of the same year, so 4 months later, I have to like stand this watch on the ship. And then the time sucks because it's like 2 AM
Yeah,
to
it does.
7 AM, which, like, you're working and you take a little nap and you gotta go back on watch for 5 hours. But nothing happens during 2 to 7. Like, really, you are so bored out of your mind. So, I was like, like, I don't want like, you're not supposed to, like, be on electronics or anything like that, so I usually just brought a book. And I brought the book. I've told the story many times on the show, but I brought Rich Dad Poor Dad. And from there, I don't know, something happened in my mind where it changed my thinking. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go on this journey of getting money. And it sounds so low, but that I truly, truly feel like this journey of trying to become wealthier has enriched my life. Like friends, experiences, opportunities, things I learned, like self development. Right? Like I mean, now thinking about it, there could be beauty in mediocrity. But when you try to do anything, like, why do you just wanna shoot for mediocrity? Like, you wanna play
Right. And
sports? Oh, just
maybe
be just be
it
average. Like it
yeah, maybe taking it back to the Western culture or Eastern culture, like you were saying, Asian culture. Maybe is it just financial mediocrity? Because I find it hard to believe just total mediocrity.
yeah, you're no, okay, you might be
You
right.
know
I
what I
might
mean? They're
be
not
over
just like,
exaggerating,
yeah,
but yeah, that's
yeah.
that's pretty much I mean, that was a, you know, very crucial moment in my
Mhm,
life, and I think I'm very lucky that I came across that mindset shift at 22. Some
mhm.
people never do, and some people do it at 40, which is better than never, but,
And when you say that mindset shift, are you referring to just how you looked at money?
Yeah, I think that's a good way
Or your
because
relationship with money,
getting
maybe even?
money encompasses more than just money. Like I was telling you before the
Yes,
podcast,
like
like I believe getting money, before you get to the money, you also have to better yourself, like physically for the stamina and the energy to work, the creative like experiences for the creativity,
sure,
learning and education for like the lucrative
sure.
opportunities, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think and that's nuance, which I mean is I feel like why we have these conversations because we just kind of like to talk to each other and like bounce ideas off. But if the end goal is just getting money, there are multiple ways to do that. Some of which aren't ethical, moral, like right, like you could aren't taxable. Like you could sell drugs and like you could have a job. You know what I'm saying? You could do all these other things, but to I'm gonna separate that from like becoming wealthy, which is I think more so maybe it started as getting money for you, but what I'm hearing you say is like your wealth journey. Because getting money is a very linear thing that
Mhm.
discards a lot of other stuff. But when you're trying to be wealthy, like you said, your life is getting enriched, friend group, mindset, all of that stuff, that screams like wealth to me. So yeah, I think it did kind of shift your mindset in a lot of ways that put you on a trajectory for pursuit of wealth, which ironically that time frame you're alluding to is like when we kind of met each other and came into each
Mhm.
other's lives. And you've been a big part of my journey in that as well. So I mean, yeah, that all makes sense to me. Um and it's funny because right, more money, more problems. When I think of society on a very basic level, if there's one thing you need in society, especially like America, right? Like I'm not talking about like Maslow's hierarchy, like you like to be alive, like
Yeah.
water, food, but you need to kind of hold your own in society or navigate or kind of make it in society. Like money objectively, you need it. Like there's no that's not my preference or like you need money to survive. I mean, with inequality, right? You sure you could be a homeless person under a bridge and kind of like you could be living, but I'm talking about like realistic um average the average circumstances, you would need money. Would you agree with that? You need money in in society?
Yeah, even for
Right.
yeah, yes. First, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you, and even
Yeah.
for the homeless case, like whether if they wanna be homeless on purpose, like, that's a different story. I mean,
Sure.
I think that's a minority of the homeless crew.
Sure. Right.
But if you're literally homeless because you can't afford housing, money solves that.
Yes.
If you're homeless because you just wanna do drugs and you don't have any responsibility, money solves that, right? So
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to think, like, what do you I guess from your personal experience hearing others, um, like, what are problems that everyday Americans would come across?
You said some good things there. I think the key in what you just asked is everyday Americans because a lot of the quote unquote problems that I hear of um from this conversation of more money, more problems is on the extreme end of more money. Like the ultra wealthy, like it's lonely at the top. It's only lonely at the top if you're out of the category where most people reside. Like if you're multi-million, bill, you're way up there, then it's lonely. But again, that's not most people. And most people saying this phrase have never experienced that realm or that. So how do you know it's lonely? Like most people aren't there to be lonely. Even if it is lonely, like it might be, but like most of us don't experience that. So yeah, the key there is everyday people. Everyday people this phrase does not that doesn't even apply to. And to what I was saying, like money is a necessity. That's like saying more of something you need. Like you're saying more money, more problem. So more of this necessity equals more problems. To me, I translate that as like I need it, but it's problematic. Like how is something I need a problem that's contradictory? That's like more water, more problem. Like what you need water, you more air, more you need air. I don't you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of illogical in nature to me. That saying. Dude, I don't even remember what your question was. I just went on a tangent.
I was saying like what I'm trying to get at like what give me like examples of what you could
Oh, right.
imagine an everyday American that would face problems on a
That would
day
probably
to day
that's right. That's
basis.
right. As a result of like more money.
No, just
Oh, just
issues.
any. Oh,
Yeah,
right.
general.
Got you. I see where you go. Okay, right. Um, car breaks down, broken car, bad vehicle.
Okay. Emergencies.
Yep.
I will
Emergencies. When it
say
says
health issues.
health. Yeah. Shelter,
Lack
home, repair. I mean, that could be emergencies, but education.
educate, yeah, absolutely. Trying
Um,
to feed your curiosity or entertainment.
yes, yes. Shit, you said feed like food. I mean,
Yeah, food.
um, yeah.
Like those are I mean, I think not everyone, but majority of people would agree with what we're saying with like these are the problems that people come across. It's just natural part of life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think we just listed 5, maybe it was 6, but everything that we just listed can be solved with money, if not will be solved with money.
Right.
And this is kind of the part that strokes my not curiosity, not controversy. What's the I'm blanking. The theories, conspiracy theories,
Okay.
conspiracy side of
Yeah.
things, and
I got you.
all of these. Not all of these. I have 2 scenarios that I think played out that these money is bad sector of phrases came about to the American general public.
Okay, good.
And one is the ultra rich and the rich. Not I don't want to say like they got this in like Illuminati meeting together. I'm like, hey guys, like let's come up with this marketing phrase
Yeah.
to let all the other people know that we have problems up here, right? Like it's I don't think it's like
Mhm.
that. But I think the ultra rich, just the wealthy people uh, started to started to say things around these phrases like money can't buy you happiness, it's lonely at the top, more money, more problems, to let the non-wealthy, non-rich people know that to have at least like some sort of sympathy for them, right? Because we can kind of think of today as there's some sort of hate against the rich, especially the common thing that we come across is like eat the rich or all these
Yeah,
billionaires
you
that
hear eat the
they
rich.
don't
Yeah.
pay their
It's like
fair
a
share of
negative stigma.
taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something negative about that. And I don't think they are ignorant of I guess that theme that's portrayed in public, right? Of like rich people are bad. So
They got to hear it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure they do. So that's why they say things like that to kind of let them know, like, hey, we got to let them know, like, we have problems up here because if not, they're gonna just hate us, and they
Right.
probably care if they have a lot of money, they probably care about their name, they care about their fame, and they don't want that ruined. So that's
Okay.
one scenario that I imagine.
So
Second,
before you
yeah, go
continue,
ahead.
are you proposing like this is the origin or could be an origin of like some of these quotes?
Yeah, I'm hella
You right.
speculating,
But
and
okay, no,
it's
that's good though, because I was gonna ask that question, like where do you think these originate from? And I think you're kind
okay.
of getting it. I don't really have an answer or a theory, so this is good. Go ahead.
And the second scenario, I think this is probably the more probable one that happened, is regardless of the hate for the rich, I think deep down inside us, inside our soul living in a first world country, without regardless of the coping, you can say these phrases to cope with yourself to say, hey, it's okay that I'm not rich. And it is okay.
Yeah, it is.
But
Yeah,
those
absolutely.
people are using it as a coping mechanism because those people that are saying it do want to be rich. So I imagine these phrases became popular as people wanting to have wealth, people wanting to be rich that failed to do so, didn't have the right opportunities, just, have they're filled with regret at the end of their life.
Sure.
and they say stuff like that to their kids or grandchildren or just in public to friends, and then these phrases start circulating around to the point where it's it's said and spoken around the country. That kind of translates to, I guess, so like a phrase that's generally accepted by society. And
Interesting.
on top
Okay.
of that, rich people hear these things. Are like, yeah, we agree with these things. Yeah, like we have so much more problems up here. Like you don't want to be rich, man.
Yeah,
It's
but
like
to
that.
the ones, right? I mean, which is an interesting theory I hadn't considered until you brought it up. Um, yeah, I wonder what they say to, like, I mean, not eat the rich is a bad one, but I don't know, like, all like rich people are stuck up. That's not,
Yeah.
you don't know. That's not absolute, like, not necessarily. Yeah, I
And the
don't know.
people that's I'm not around the super rich or ultra
Yeah, I
rich. I'm
wouldn't know.
not
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna lie to you, but I have heard from around the people that are around the rich, they say these people are one of the nicest people that they ever met. So I do think it's yeah, just like a false narrative that's spread around and that got accepted by society.
Hearing more money, more problems. It's like, right? Could I think of another set of problems that may arise as a result of having more money? Yes, I can. But as we like to do, if I do that, I have to consider the counter narrative. If I have less money, are there also problems that arise? Yes. Okay. So now with both of those being true, I have to ask. I feel like the natural next question is, in which direction? One, are there more problems? And two, what type of problems? Better problems? Like, let's go. I'm gonna go in the lesser money direction real quick, and we'll just spitball some problems. Like, if I have less money, what are some problems I might have? Like we said earlier, maybe trying to find my meals, trying to get food, right? I don't know what. Let's get like two more. If you take the money you make now, chop that in half annually, or just total net, like you have half. I think you're going to have very short-term problems. Where am I gonna eat? Maybe, I don't know, maybe feel less secure, protection. I don't know. You mentioned entertainment, quality of life, right? Like, how are you gonna entertain yourself? A lot of those things are gonna go down. Now, if I go in the other direction, and let's say I double, I don't know what your net worth, annual salary, however you want to look at it, what type of problems will I have now? It's probably gonna be problems of choice, choosing between different things. Like, I know I can get whatever product A is, but now instead of like, oh, I'm hoping I can get product A, it's like, now do I want product A, B, or C? Or, a big one that I feel like comes up is more of a maybe like psychological or an emotional problem, which is like, it becomes harder to trust people. Like, are people around you just for, and again, this problem that I'm about to name, I think it applies more to the super and ultra wealthy, but we'll just go with it for sake of conversation. But like, hey, are my friends really my friends for me, or because of the value, the monetary value I bring to the friend group, or them, or my life, or they're around me for the clout or the image? Does my family start hitting me up more for money? Things like that. So on those two categories of problems, I think I'm going to take again, I only named a couple, but I think personally, I'm going to take the problems of having more money. Because even for the friend example, right? Who are people around you for the right reasons? One could argue, if you getting more money shows people's true colors and who's really around you for you, again, is that a problem? Maybe you just weed out some people that aren't genuine in your life. Like, shoot, that could be a win. That might not even be a problem, to be honest.
Yeah.
But again, if you have lesser money, I feel like your problems are very short term, very nearsighted. How am I going to get this thing tomorrow? How am I going to get this food tonight? How am I going to make it to the weekend? Right. Whereas when you have more money, you will always have problems, right? Your problems change. Again, I think it's more money, different problems, or you could even spend it more money, more opportunities, honestly, which I think is the most accurate quote that I would submit to this conversation. And it opens your aperture. Like things you're worried about aren't nearsighted. It allows you to focus on things like further down. In this one, I'm actually still like I heard somebody saying this, like when you have more money, you can essentially plan better because you're not worried about these things that are in your near day, 2 day, week future, which I think is very important. I haven't heard much in this conversation. They always say fail to plan, plan to fail. If more money allows you to kind of see down range a little bit further, it kind of allows you to plan. Since when has a plan ever been bad? Like, I just think that again, just looking at the same question but from a different lens. I think giving more money, even if it comes with problems, those problems aren't limiting in those ways that problems with as a result of less money are limiting problems, whereas your problems as a result of more money aren't limiting problems. It may be deemed a problem, but it's not like as limiting. I think that's an interesting concept that I think people don't take into account, like the type of problem.
Right. I think, yeah, and then I think from what you said, there's a couple things I want to say. I mean, first, it's on the line of, I guess, irony, and then I feel like now that we're talking about it, there's a lot of ironic correlations that we can make with this phrase or any money related phrase or money is bad related phrase. But then when you're talking about like rich people's problems, I'm gonna go even further up to the richer people, and then
Yeah.
their problems are like along the side, or it's along this line of what you said, opportunity. But they're talking about what kind of investments do I need to make so I can make my money work the hardest, or
Yeah.
looking at the risk versus reward for the money. That's the problems they're talking about. They're talking about, oh, how can I save on taxes so I don't have to pay the government? um right, it's like these are things that they call problems,
Yeah.
but those problems end up, if done correctly, they make you more money, right? Because
The irony.
with
You're
the
probably yeah.
proper investments, that it will continue to make money. With paying less in taxes, that will continue to, I mean, you'll have more disposable income or more money to invest in the first place. So that's
Right.
one thing I thought that's kind of ironic.
That's why I
And
said more opportunities for that. That's a
right.
great example.
So with that, or and the second thing I want to bring up is the planning piece that you talked about. And I have heard something similar as well from what you heard, because and I have a real life example. Is like when so I got out the Navy 2023 and I moved to Phoenix for my next job. And I was living in a very not so pleasant part of town, and beautiful property. But just the location wasn't correct. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was still trying to work on my side hustles and trying to make more money, but it was hard for me to focus because I'll be scared for not necessarily, I mean, my own personal security as well, but trying to accommodate for my wife's security, like her comfort in feeling safe in our home. We
Yeah.
didn't have that, so we were just constantly worrying. And then it was, I think there was like a event that kind of broke the camel's back, where for my work, I had to go to El Paso, Texas. And it's like, it was short enough where like it didn't meet the company's policy. So I had to drive there from Phoenix. It's
Yeah.
like a 5-hour drive. It's not that bad. But literally about 45 minutes into my drive, I had like, mind you, I'm heading to Texas. I'm 45 minutes away from home driving. I get like a ring notification. And then, I just look. I'm like, why would anyone be at my place? And there was this homeless man like messing with the ring camera. And I was very nervous because I couldn't do anything about it. Right. And so he leaves after like 20 minutes. Like, still a too long time to be hanging around
Yeah.
someone's front door messing with the ring camera.
Yeah.
Anyway, for the rest of the car ride, I didn't even play music. I was so worried and thinking the entire time, like, why is he doing this? Like, like I I don't usually get I don't get bad I don't wanna say I don't get bad anxiety, but this was a really bad
Yeah.
case of having anxiety because of this thing, and I can totally relate to, you know, just failing to plan because my concern for my safety was greater than that. As soon as I bought a house in another part of town, um, and I started living there, much nicer neighborhood. It's not the best neighborhood, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it was still a neighborhood where there's parks, people walking
Sure.
around, like, you
Yeah.
can walk at night and still be okay.
Yeah.
So, and then that's where you
Mm.
kinda start to, again, change your mindset from you're thinking about safety to opportunity.
Yeah. Heck yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, I think that's important. I very much think like at what point if I wish we could like quantify that there was like a numerical representation at which point a problem becomes opportunity. Because all those again, quote unquote problems that you named for sure we'll say the ultra it's not even ultra wealthy, just the wealthier people, again, as a result of their mindset, they're really not problems because I feel like a problem, and again, I'm not looking up the definition, is something that if not overcame, if you don't overcome it, something bad happens, right? Like, yeah, sure, I'll say that. Like, w trying to determine where you invest your money. If you don't choose a better investment, like, you're still investing in it. Maybe it's you choose a worse performing stock or I don't know, you just choose the lesser of two options, but again, it's still, like, positive in nature. And again, to prove that along the lines of the more money, more opportunities portion, there are quite literally some things that you have to have money to do, or just a large sum of money. Like money is like straight up the barrier. Like there's certain clubs that you have to get into. Maybe there's like a monthly fee, gyms. Like I can think of so many things where simply just money, nothing else, is the only thing that would afford you access to whatever said thing is. So quite literally, more money can bring you more opportunities. So it's like even if there are more problems with more money, which I don't agree with. There are more opportunities that could like counteract those problems or you know what I mean? Whereas if on the inverse, if less money, which I also think there's another set of problems with that, you can't say the same. There's not less money, more opportunities. There's less money, more problems, and less opportunities. So it's like,
Double whammy.
how would you, yeah, in what world is more money bad? Even if and this is for any level. If you're poor and you get more money, I think it's better. If you're middle class and you get more money, I think it's better. If you're super rich and you get more money, like in any instance, in any level on the spectrum of wealth, I don't think more money is a net bad. And again, sure, I'll entertain that it introduces new problems, different problems, but I'm still rebelling the fact that it's more problems. And again, I think some of those problems could be argued if they're even problems at all.
Yeah,
I'd
not
reframe
really,
them
right?
as opportunity. You know what I
The
mean? Yeah.
actual problems that they would come about, like actual problems that we could both say, okay, that is a problem.
Yeah.
I feel like if you have more money in this case, you can just pay to figure it out.
Sometimes too, which is the
Yeah.
another ironic thing, like you were saying.
And
Yeah.
so I do want to kind of bring into the conversation. I mean, so look, I kind of hinted at it. I'm definitely talked about it, but I do think these sayings in general are either used by the rich or used by people that didn't get money. It's like a either like a message scheme, or hold on, they used a good word that I wanted to use. It's strategic strategic
Yeah.
tools that the rich employ to, I don't want to say brainwash. It's like a propaganda. I guess propaganda would be
Yeah.
a better word.
Mhm.
But on the lines of like that thinking, like, I want to bring up like really, I think it's a great example in real life because and just think about how I talked about rich people. They care about the name. Um, they care about their fame. Like they care about their legacy. I guess it's kind of same thing with the name, but they don't want to be associated with just rich or just wealthy because that has a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
So therefore, they do something to distract people from that rich title.
Mm.
And this is a story that I want to bring up where we have Alfred Nobel, and then that name will have to sound familiar to pretty much everyone because he not he, but his money created the Nobel Peace Prize. And Nobel Peace Prize, like if anyone knows about it, it's a big deal, right? So basically, you can look up his life, but he grew up in like a poverty, like a is it famine, lack of
Famine,
food,
yeah.
yeah, famine, like a wartime environment. Let's get this straight, right? So he didn't have money,
Started from the bottom.
started from the bottom,
Now he's
and
here.
he somewhere along the way starts experimenting with a chemical that makes dynamite, and he makes dynamite. And dynamite was used in many different ways, like constructions, blowing things up, like during wartime. Like, but if you kind of think about it, when something is used for a lot of things, but there's this one notable thing that your product does really bad for humanity, in this case, killing people, like your name just starts to get attached to that, right?
His name was
So
Tesh. I mean, yeah.
So he became very, very, very wealthy, as you can imagine. Just pretty much like building factories to make these dynamite and exporting it, right? And from there, he realized, I believe it was someone at his company or someone outside of him, kind of like let him know that, hey, Alfred, just want to let you know your name and legacy is going to be tied to someone that created a dynamite. It's a really bad image. And he didn't like that, obviously. So in his will, he wasn't married, he didn't have kids, so he didn't necessarily have any money, all this money that he accumulated, he didn't have anyone to pass it down to. So in his will, he mentioned 4 different organizations that he wanted to give money to. I don't know those 4 organizations, but one of them was for the creation of the Nobel Peace Prize. And then today, you look at, like, if you think about his name, I think it'll be it's less associated with the creator of dynamite. It's more associated with creating the Peace Prize,
Yeah.
right? So I think what he did ultimately saved his name and legacy. I mean, he's
Mm.
passed away now, so does that really matter? I don't know, but that's the intent that he wanted. So ultimately, he used a diversion tactic with the money that he had to make a better name for himself. And
Mm.
this is not directly tied to more money, more problems, but the thinking is along the same lines of these tactics that the rich use to kind of get their name associated with just that rich guy that does bad because rich people are bad, right?
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
So that's one example. And we have other examples. So, okay. I still want, sorry, I want to say one more thing on him is what he did ultimately to create the Nobel Peace Prize. I think is a great thing. Don't get me wrong, right? I'm
Yeah.
glad that he did that. But if he really cared about like being good morally, ethically, he didn't. All the rich people, they talk about how, oh, money isn't important, whatever. If that was really the case, then why didn't he do these things in his lifetime? Why did it have to be left in the will for someone else to execute because now he's dead, he can't use his money? So maybe I'm understanding the intent of this completely wrong, but it just doesn't add up to me. And another example, we look at American history, right? And we have a name like John D. Rockefeller. I don't think you can go through school without hearing his
Yeah,
name.
for sure.
And he's one of those people that in the public, he talked about the dangers of greed, right? Which, I mean, I think we can kind of all agree that having greed in any form or any way is not good.
Yeah.
So his message isn't wrong. I agree with it. But at the same time, he was also known to be in the background, keep buying companies, keep making investments. Um, and then it became problematic because the companies that he was buying became monopolies. And he just has so much power. Some people say, like, on an inflation adjusted scale, he's one of the richest people in America ever. I don't know if that's still true to this day, but I did hear that growing
Brady's
up.
probably up there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure there are some like a logical example that that brought up about people saying
Yeah.
what they said about him. So with that being said, it's just such a double, is it two-face? Like a two-faced thing to
Yeah.
say something in public that says along the line of money's bad. Oh, you should donate. You should care for the people that don't have money. Blah blah blah. All this stuff. But you really look at behind the scenes, like they're non-public figure, they're private figure, and they just keep trying to make more money.
Was he doing both? So was I mean, you may not know this, but it's maybe rhetorical. If he's getting money and giving money, or was he, you know what I mean? Like he could, I feel like, play kind of both.
You can,
Yeah.
but then why is the Rockefellers one of the richest families in America right now?
Right. I mean, right. He was ultra wealthy and had probably enough to pass down. I mean, definitely set his family up for
Yeah,
generations
generational
and
wealthy. I'm
still,
not knocking
yeah,
generational wealth. I'm just knocking the message he gave to the public versus the actions that he took in his real life.
yeah, we're conflicting.
So, yeah, don't get me wrong, like, he made contribution, he did good with his money, but just think, like, when you hear these phrases, you just I don't know what came about for me to think about, why this phrase was illogical or invalid. But I started thinking about it and it's like I came across these things and I was like, huh, I just never hear the opposite side of people. Like people preach these things, but I never hear the opposite end of people that I don't know, not celebrate, but support these or disagree with these phrases.
Okay, so you're saying these ultra wealthy people are submitting these phrases and you don't hear anybody like negating it,
Fighting
like
it.
any, yeah.
Yeah.
But
N-
you don't hear other ultra wealthy people fighting it specifically though.
No.
Okay, and are you saying that that is adding to the narrative of like they are trying to, because right, you call it propaganda. They are almost trying to like entice the masses to maybe not pursue the wealth as much, or like be giving with your money and stuff, or do these things that they don't actually do.
Yeah. So
Mm,
i the thing is, like I said, like the article said, it may be a strategic tool to keep
yeah.
the working class compliant, which is probably,
Mm,
that's really good for society, obviously. And distracted is what we talked about. Like instead of identifying these people as billionaires, bad people, which naturally just comes about, the name gets associated with, oh, he's a philanthropist. He
yeah.
donates a lot of food. He donates a lot of money. He
Hmm.
does this good. Blah blah blah. Creates the Nobel Peace Prize. That's the
Hmm.
distraction piece. Or even tell people to be proud of their lack of wealth,
Mm,
which
that's
that's that's another issue. Like you are telling people it's okay to be poor, which it is okay to be poor, but then those same poor people they want to keep getting money. So it's doing them harm in a way that if they want money, they hear these things and they're like, "Oh, you know what? Like I am content where I'm at. I am content being mediocre and these kind of stuff." And I think it sends the wrong message. And maybe I sent the wrong message. Yeah, it sounds bad, but I hope maybe you can do a better job explaining it than I can in a nicer
no,
way, I guess. Maybe.
no, yeah. I'm just trying to take it all in and tie it into. Yeah, it is an interesting. I'm trying like. Do you think these phrases, right? because I think it would be good to be content wherever you are financially. Not content maybe, but find comfort's not the right word anyways. Um, I don't know, some element of happiness. Like
Grateful.
grateful, yeah, grateful is probably the best term. Like, don't just mope around and be sad about it. Like, be grateful for what you do have, but at the same time, you can still like get to the bag. You can still be trying to like get money as well. Which I don't know what these narratives that sure we'll say these ultra wealthy people are saying. Maybe it disincentivizes people from trying to pursue higher levels of wealth because there is and there's no way to know, but like what you're saying, like them maybe trying to distract the middle class or the lower class is super interesting. But I'm also like, if you're that ultra wealthy, do you really think like I feel like if I were those people, because I'm far from it, I wouldn't be worried about like, oh, all these other people are gonna be getting wealthy and that's gonna take away from my wealth. No, there's money's getting made every day. Like somebody else making money does not take away from anybody else or me making money. You know what I mean?
I think
Um,
I think you're right. I think you're right. Maybe that's not their intent,
yeah,
but maybe their
but it
intent is to, like I said multiple times, like, oh, don't feel as bad for me, or feel bad for me as well because having money
yeah,
has problems.
got you. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I don't know. I'm on the same boat with you. I'm not considered to be one of this ultra wealthy people, nor am I even close,
Right.
right? But at the same time, I've been in my life, like before I got into the Navy, like I said, I was making minimum wage jobs. I've been there without having money, right? I mean, for majority of those times, I was under the care from my parents.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then even in college, like I just couldn't afford stuff because not at 18, I wasn't cut off from my family
Yeah.
financially at all. But like I didn't get a monthly allowance, right? Like if I had dinner with them, like they'll pay for it, but they never gave me money to buy shoes except for
Right. Sure.
birthdays and Christmas
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So I've been there without the money.
Okay. Right.
And at this point now, I'm very grateful for what I have. And life is good.
Right. But you worked for what you have though. Like it's
Right. I
you know
mean,
what I'm
the working for it, I don't think it matters whether you worked for it or not, at least for this conversation, but I know what having, in quotation, having money, whatever that means, at least for me, I know what that feels like, and I know what it feels like not to have money, and I
gotcha,
just
yeah.
never ever thought that when I had no money was better, I guess in terms of
Right.
lifestyle, things
Yeah.
like that, in any
Yeah.
any way.
Yeah. Right. Which kind of goes about what we were talking about earlier. Um, and to that, right, we're kind of talking about the narratives that hit the general public, kind of from the top down, like from the ultra wealthy, some things that they might have proposed or that they've said before. But I'm like, if we flip it, one narrative that me and you kind of talked about, I don't think we brought this up on camera yet, but we talked about before, that I think comes from like the bottom up is this weird illusion of nobility, like in poverty. Like people take pride in having either A, having little, B, coming from a little, or maybe C, just being stuck with having a little. And I'm like, now, right, in the context of this conversation, does that pride in that mindset come from quotes like this? That's like, it's lonely at the top, money is the root of all evil, more money, more problems. So it's like with all those things being said, it's like, well, shit, I don't got no money. So like, I'm good. I'm not lonely. I'm not contributing to the root of all evil. I don't have more problems because you know what I mean? Like, and there probably is no answer to this, but and I can personally admit, I've literally heard two individuals argue before trying to one up each other on who had it harder, like harder upbringing and or like has harder times. And it just in my head, in what world did it become like, is that good and or cool? just why is that even you know what I mean? I just never like they were literally going back and forth, like arguing. And much like these other narratives that I disagree in, like I just don't get how there's a difference between being grateful for what you have and then being prideful that you have little to nothing. Those are two very different things. And I just want to know where it came from.
I don't I really don't understand either. I would love to hear some stories on how it's beneficial or where the mindset came from. And yeah, I mean, that's in our society too. It's like a dick measuring contest.
Yeah, low key.
I just
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, another phrase in this group of phrases I don't think we talked about yet is the best things in life are free. Which this one maybe I can get behind more a little more than the others, but what do you think about that phrase?
so I do think I mean I'm personally thinking the best thing that happened to me was probably getting married to my wife,
Hmm.
right? But it wasn't free.
Technically, yeah, okay.
I mean, I and when
But
I
see, was the best thing getting married to your wife or meeting your wife? Because that was free. Like you
right,
couldn't have got married if you didn't meet
but
her.
I also meet a lot of people, and I'm not
But
grateful for
right.
those.
But meeting
Those
her
aren't
specifically, who is a huge part of your life and arguably changed your life, like meeting her, that
meeting her didn't change my life. Getting married to her changed my life because it could have been just a
okay,
fling, and we could have went moved on our separate directions in life.
it could have been, but meeting her did lead you to get married.
Yeah, but the act of getting married cost me a lot of money,
Okay, sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
No,
okay.
I know, yeah. But yeah, so
uh,
that's me. Which
mhm,
sure, would she have said yes if I didn't spend any money? Maybe I would like to think so.
yeah.
But what I'm really thinking about is the episode that we recorded recently about what is wealth, and then
Mhm.
wealth was an acronym that like
Yeah,
we got from a book that made up the components of like really being not just wealthy monetarily, but like having like a wealthy lifestyle.
right.
And a lot of those wealthy lifestyles is not free. Like having good
Mhm.
like having access to preventative healthcare, corrective healthcare, having access to safety. Obviously, money is part of it. Like none of these things that like you live a great like a spectacular lifestyle that I could look forward to. That got just not free. It
Yeah,
nowhere close to being free.
yeah,
So I see some truth in it, like I said. I see some truth in a lot of the phrases, but I can't if someone was like, "Do you agree or disagree? Yes or no, true or false?" I can't agree.
yeah. What? Say that last part again.
If they said, "Hey, like on a multiple choice test, right?
Mhm.
We got the super easy multiple choice test, it's just true or false. So it's 50-50 shot."
Yeah.
And the question was, "The best things in life are free. Is
Oh, I
this
got you.
true or
I
false?"
got you.
I would have to put false. What you thinking? I know, it looks like
I,
your brain's spinning.
yeah, I'm like, I might put true for that. I'm trying to think on my personal level and also on just a general societal level, like things that people go through. You can make yeah. It just depends how technical you get. Uh, like trying to speak answer for what majority of people say. I would imagine the greatest things in some people that have children's lives would be having children. Like the act of making and having a child is free. Now, everything after that child is born is not free. So like you know what I mean? It's kind of like they're both right. Like it's free, but it's not free. So it's like just depends how you look at it. But which is why I was like, that phrase I can kind of get behind more than a lot of like money is the root of all
Mhm.
evil, more money, more problems. Those I confidently disagree with. Where that one's a little more gray for me personally, but nonetheless, it's just like if I were to go back in time or portray our society on a linear time graph, at what point in time did these ideas, like these negative ideas of the rich, become romanticized, and these ideas of nobility and poverty become romanticized? Like, just when did these grab hold and really take root? And I just, it's an interesting, fascinating question that I don't think we would have, or you and I would have the answer to. But nonetheless, we're here rebelling against, proposing why we disagree with them. And yeah, I just think it's really good to talk about. Speaking of going back in time, I'm gonna take the biblical route real quick, which is really funny because I am not religious. I have not read the Bible in its entirety. But something I recently heard, and for those that do partake heavily in religion, uh, I'm gonna take a quote from the Bible, and I just got it from Chat GPT. For those that say money does not buy happiness, and or money, more problems, I submit this to the chat. And this is from allegedly. This is from Ecclesiastes 10:19, which 10:19 is significant to me and B. Just throwing that out there. I won't say why, but so Ecclesiastes 10:19 states, "A feast is made for laughter, wine makes life merry, but money is the answer for everything." Like, wow, that's such a bold statement too. Money is the answer for everything. And I brought that quote to B, and he said, like, which I thought was funny. You were like, the answer is kind of like the opposite of a problem. Like, not only is money the problem or problematic, like it's the answer for everything at that. Not even like what? So I don't know. Again, I'm not very religious. My first time hearing that was in kind of looking up some things to support this episode and just digging into curiosity. But I'm wrestling with, is that more coincidental? Is that more ironic? Because I think there are things in other religious texts or whatever that speaks almost like the opposite of money. Um, which again, we could probably go off on a tangent on that, but I think there's something to be said that in this piece of text, it's literally saying that money is the answer for everything. Now, maybe that was translated a little different, throughout time. Maybe someone's words got skewed, but nonetheless, hey, that's the words of Ecclesiastes. That's not Julian's words, so I just find that very interesting. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I just want to say with that quote, I'm not crazy in thinking what I was thinking.
Yeah, it backs you.
Yeah, because I was like, dude, this has to like the more I looked into it, I was like, this has to be some kind of social programming that I don't want to say the government because maybe government, I don't know, but
Oh no, yeah.
some other people besides the middle and the lower class came up with, and then through newspaper, TV show, just culture, social media today, like just kind of, I don't want to say brainwash, but like, you seen Inception?
Yeah.
It's like, they go to the third layer and they like
Yeah,
plant a little seed that grows into like a great idea. They did that.
That's funny.
And yeah, I mean, going kind of continuing off the biblical reference, another saying that I hear all the time is, or I let's be clear, I don't hear it all the time. I hear the incorrect saying all the time,
Mm.
which they say money is the root of all evil. But the actual quote is the love of money is the root of all evil,
Yeah.
which comes from a biblical reference. But what do you think about that? Because I have, I don't think money itself is inherently bad. It is just a
Yes.
form of exchange that today is just a piece of paper.
Yes.
In history, it could have been seeds, it could have been gold,
Right.
it could have been a promissory note. So money is not good or bad. I would put money in a good because what we think of money today, I would put that as good because it makes forms of exchange so much easier, right? Like prior, I don't know, 1,000 years ago, how would I have to, get you money? I don't know. But right now, I can just Venmo you and you hit your account probably in about 35 seconds,
Right.
right? So money itself, I think is, for argument's sake, we'll say it's not good or bad. But
Yes, correct.
I think people are misusing that phrase, and I would agree with the love of money is the root of evil, because I mean, not all evil. Some people are just lunatics, just crazy people, but majority of the things that people do is like fraudulent activities, just money related things that they do bad with. So that's a level of money, not necessarily money in itself. So I
Right.
just
Yes.
the Bible thing just reminded me, so I just wanted to throw that in there. What do you think about that?
No, that's good, B. Um, I agree. And that quote or that reference being skewed is very important. Money being the root of all evil and the love of money being all evil. Love is that, I feel like, is the word we need to anchor on, because it's the attachment to money that is probably doing any harm, not the money, which is what you just said. But keeping in line with biblical references, per Christian teachings, I'm going to bring up the seven deadly sins,
Mm,
which are lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. And the first three all have to do with this excessive, like, want or desire for something. So lust, an intense desire I'm not even gonna read the full quote. I'm just gonna read the first part of lust. The intense desire or craving, and then it goes on. Gluttony, overindulgence or overconsumption, and then it goes on. Greed, an excessive desire for material, and then it goes on. Right. So that lust of money, that gluttony of money, that greed of money, which are, according to Christians, in these seven deadly sins, that is I feel like, the operative function in that reference. That is bad, not money.
mhm,
And that stays in lines with these, biblical or Christian teachings. So yeah, I think. And because it doesn't have anything to do with money, you can put that with anything. We talked about in it might have been the ethics episode. I think I asked you, is too much of anything bad? Something along those lines. And without putting too much thought into it, I'm sure I could poke a hole in this, but, like, generally thinking, I was like, yeah, you can have too much of anything, right?
mhm.
Even things that are inherently good, too much of it could be bad. Yeah, I guess just in excess, but, like, money isn't bad, but when you have, I mean, can you have excess money? I mean, I guess you can have excess money when it's no longer, when all of your basic needs are met. I guess anything above that would be deemed excess, but it's not the excess money is bad. It's because you have excess. Now you have liberties to do, like, more things with that money than your desires and where you want to, like, put that money. You have more space, I guess, for bad or fraudulent activity. But again, it's not the money, because you could have the excess and you could build a school or start a who knows what, you know what I mean? Um, but I'm just trying to draw this conversation away from the money and more of the lust, the gluttony, the greed, the
Yeah.
the
No,
excess.
yeah, I
Yeah.
recently had a similar conversations. Like, people know me, or to make it simple, I say, "Hey, I want to be rich. I want to be
Yeah.
wealthy." I don't get me wrong. It was for argument's sake. I'm not like going around blurting out to my friends, "Oh, I just want
Yeah.
to be." I'm not saying that. It was when we're talking about argument. Like, my goals is to have generational wealth for my future kids and their kids, and teach, not just give money, but like give proper teaching. So I think money is important. But in that conversation, one of my buddies was like, "Dude, like, you just love money so much." And I kind of took offense to that, because that's not necessarily true. Because I say money as like a catch-all term,
Yeah.
but having money means means nothing. Like, having money that you can't. Let's just say you just have money that you can't spend. That means
Yeah,
nothing.
or if you don't do anything with it, you can
Yeah, you
have
don't.
you can be a billionaire if you don't do. If that billionaire just sits stagnant under your mattress, metaphorically, like it's okay.
Right. So I think we're kind of skipping a crucial step. Money is a form of exchange, right? Whereas that form of exchange kind of talks about the components of wealth that we talked about like 10 minutes ago. I want to get money so I can eat better food. I want to have money so I can live in a safer neighborhood. I want to have money so I can drive around in a reliable car. I want to have money so I can give great education to my kids. Right? Well, who's not going to love money?
Yeah, right.
Right? So I don't, it just, they assume the love of money equals greed for these materialistic things. I think that was a good example, definition you gave. Um, but yeah, I see that as a problem. But then, like, people are kind of associating money with greed, and just not necessarily the case.
Can be, certainly can be.
It can be just
But
like you can use a kitchen knife to cook up a great meal. You can also kill someone. So it just, I guess the
facts.
intent behind what you want to do with the money is kind of
Yes.
like a very important factor in this equation, right?
Yes.
So I do want to bring it full circle because we talked about a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
but the thing that I want to get primarily out of the topic about more money, more problems is not necessarily that saying itself, but just be careful other people telling you not to strive for like a higher version of yourself,
Mm.
because getting money ethically, legally, also involves leveling up yourself. So like if you want to do that for you, for your family, for whoever, like go ahead and do that. Don't let these stupid sayings that don't mean anything, it's probably not even true, to, you know, I don't want the people to be like played like a puppet because they hear these things over and over and over, and they're changing their brain programming in like a negative light.
Dude, I love that. I'm so glad you said that. I don't even need to add to it. I think that's very important just to mention. So thank you for bringing that up. Sweet. Yeah, on that, I just encourage, I guess, just a questioning attitude. Like, do some introspection. Ask yourself, what problems do I have now? And if I had, I don't know, 100,000 more dollars, what would those problems that I just listed in my head to only myself look like? Or if you do know somebody or come across somebody that is in uh multiple tax brackets higher than you, and you have the luxury of asking them what problems they have, maybe ask them. I don't know. Like be saying, like, do come to your own conclusions or do what's right for you, and maybe drown out some of this, what I'll call noise that is somehow circulating in society. But with that, um, I wish you all more money and wealth and prosperity and just overall well being. That's all we got for you. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next week.